First story. Mom takes down the HOA from the inside. My neighborhood does not have a homeowners association, at least not anymore. When my parents first moved in, my older sibling was maybe 2 years old, and with me as a little glowworm, there was an HOA. They took money from the neighborhood in exchange for their services. At first, and for quite a while, my parents just kind of shrugged it off. The HOA shoveled the snow off the streets in winter and dealt with trash collection. So they were doing something worthwhile, right? No. The city controlled the snowplows and garbage trucks, not the HOA. But still, there was the illusion of effort. And besides, one summer they decided to contact a company to plant new trees all over the neighborhood. The fact that the company was owned by the son of the head of the HOA was totally coincidental. The trees were the beginning of the end for the HOA. Why? Well, my grandma on my dad's side was visiting when they came around to plant the trees. My grandma, who is a certified master gardener, and so she stared through the windows of our house as the guys planting the trees just dropped the saplings on the grass. Still with the roots inside the bag they came in. No holes cut, just a bagged sapling lying on the grass like a pathetic and sad stick. The saplings laid there all night. No one came back to actually do their job and plant them. My master gardener grandma mentioned offhand that those saplings were going to die unless they got in the soil. And something clicked in my mom's head. She was paying the HOA money, actual money, every month, while both she and my dad worked taking care of two very little kids, sending us to daycare and preschool, and arranging babysitters and feeding us. And the homeowners association was just going to pull this nonsense instead of do what she's paying them for? No way. So she showed up to the head of the HOA's house and basically demanded that the trees get planted properly like she's apparently paying for them too. The head of the HOA, so excited for someone actually caring about the neighborhood, made their second mistake. And they asked if mom wanted to join the HOA. She agreed, and the trees were planted. But most didn't make it, sadly. My grandma was right. First things first, my mom showed up to the next HOA meeting. There were like 5 people there, and no wonder they asked mom to join. They desperately needed the people. So mom looked at this collection of white people, herself included, who weren't even paying money to the HOA like the rest of the neighborhood. All the contractors the HOA called in were so close relatives of other HOA members and weren't paid by the HOA. After all, they are family. So my mom started digging. She spent pretty much a full summer taking down the HOA before she had to go back to teaching in the fall. With me carted along after her and my sibling old enough to be in school or daycare, she dug through the years of paperwork detailing the HOA's financial situation, and she found something extremely enlightening. The HOA didn't actually do anything. Well, they didn't do anything to benefit the community. Everything they claimed to do was either covered by the individual homeowner or by the city itself. So they were collecting money from all the neighborhood residents under false pretenses. And actually, they weren't even supposed to be in our neighborhood. Their association zone was a whole different neighborhood. So what is a working mother of 2 small children to do while her husband is off at work and she's off for the summer? She goes door to door with pamphlets, me and my sibling in a stroller, as she weaves her way through the neighborhood blocks. Pamphlets explaining the situation and how to stop paying for services you will never get. Pamphlets that are, of course, written in both English and Spanish to account for the high amount of Latino and Hispanic people in our neighborhood. Naturally, she got a lawyer. And also she got an accountant. It put a major dent in her pocket, but if it meant the entire neighborhood wasn't exploited for money each month, it was worth every penny. Another HOA member helped her sift through the documents and data and pass out pamphlets and encourage people to show up to the meetings, but had to back out because of work-related reasons. My mom rolled up to the courthouse flanked by the lawyer and accountant, her kids safe at home with her husband, and had more than enough evidence to get the Homeowners Association out of her neighborhood, expose the fraudsters for the frauds they were, and make sure that no HOA would ever push their luck in our neighborhood again. It's been almost 19 years, and no one's even tried making another Homeowners Association in our neighborhood. Next story. Don't want to listen? Well then, close your establishment. I'm a very good trained light operator for big events. Since I learned it all from a friend, I don't have any diploma, but my work spoke for itself. So I got decent jobs and amazing references. Eventually, I started to do concerts up to 1,000 people. I was comfortable to charge full price. Since those jobs came irregularly, I started a job at a local nightclub so I could plan my spare time better. In this nightclub, I got hired with full responsibility of PA and stage lights. The boss was pretty entitled to his position, even though he had no idea how things worked. This led to a lot of dispute. All the interior was rather on the cheap end, and infrastructural problems limited the possibilities. In fact, it was a very small room, but he always came to me like, I was clubbing all over the world. I know what is possible and I want you to make that possible here. And I just answered with, if you're giving me the biggest screens and the cheapest execution, you can't expect the most expensive effects. For example, if you want a pink light, but you don't have a pink filter, I cannot make that happen. And this escalated to a pointless conversation to nowhere. Afterward, I sent him unasked a plan on how to throw all the oversized stuff out, sell it and get an actually decent light show that would fit better. A moving light made for 8 meters plus height is amazing, but does not make any sense on a stage that is only a quarter of that height. Anyways, when Halloween was coming, I saw the cotton spider whips for decoration. They can really take a beating, barely rip and melt when they get warm. Knowing this, I walked up to the decorator and told him to not wrap the moving lights with those nets, since they easily get jacked into the motor, mess things up, plug the motors, and in the worst case, melt. When Halloween came, the place was very cringely decorated. I did not care, since it was a decorator's job, and people seemed to like it. But all the moving lights were covered in this whipping. I told them to change it immediately, since there were 16 of them and every single one at a price of $8,000. The club owner once more came and told me to just ignore it. They made it like that all the time and it worked so far. This was going on for too long and yeah, I already had an offer from a rival establishment, so I warned him again and then just left to do as he was told. The Halloween party ended after only 1.5 hours in the best way I could imagine. 30 minutes after starting the show, all the moving lights were stuck in the whipping. Motors out of control and molten plastic dropping from the ceiling. I turned them off, leaving me with top backup spots. The boss calls on the radio and asks, "What the heck? Where are all the lights?" I tell him the moving heads are down. I can still try to repair them now since the damage is not severe. "Screw this! You turn them back on right now and get people to party." Just for protocol, if I turn the moving lights back on, they will be screwed up beyond all recognition within minutes. And you want me to do that? They won't. And yes, that's what you should do. So I did. And it looked glorious. Then the first people ran out, because they had molten plastic dripping onto their shoulders and heads. And even better, then it started smoking and smelling like fire on the dance floor. So I radioed back to my boss. People are leaving with burns because of the whipping, and I think the lights are about to catch fire. Breaking your things on command is one thing, but I won't put people in danger here. I got no answer from him. 5 minutes later, he stopped behind me and told me to go home. He will do it himself. So I just left. I went to the other club I was going to start at soon. Later, I got a call from one of the barkeepers from the other place. The motors on the lights apparently set the cheap decoration on fire only 10 minutes after I had left. I went straight back in. Fortunately, it was only a small fire and nobody was hurt. My boss was in front of the club, screaming at the firefighters and customers in a complete meltdown. About 15 people sued, and I was one of the witnesses in trial. And needless to say, he had to close down. I could have excluded the motors for him to use, but I think that way it was more fun. Next story. I can take pictures of whoever I want. It's me, your boy. It's me, a local government employee in the Midwest, coming at ya with some fun story. A previous city job of mine was training lifeguards at the local pool. This was the nicest one in town, and we had much higher certifications and Red Cross pools. There was a manager, the older guy wasn't usually there, assistant manager, a female friend of mine that was younger, and the trainer, me. I was 21 at the time, looking like the rest of the 16 to 17-year-old guards. One day, doing the rounds, making sure everyone is getting water, doing okay, etc., I see a man with a fancy camera taking pictures of kids. Not just a dad taking an iPhone picture of his children, but like a 40-year-old man walking around taking lots of pictures of lots of different kids. Nah, not in my pool. Hey mister, can I ask why you're taking pictures of all the children?
Oh, I work for the city. This is all for the website.
Cool. Can I see your badge? If you're out in public, you get a very obvious green lanyard with your picture and title.
Oops, sorry. I must have left it in the car.
Well then I'm going to have to ask you to leave and go grab that for me. And if you could get the waivers for the kids/families too, since you're using their pictures for advertising, that will be peachy.
I'm a city employee, and I don't need waivers. Everyone is in public, so I'm good.
It looks like you're just taking pictures of kids though. And yes, you do need waivers. They might all be outside, but they all pay to be here. And if you don't get consent, then use the pictures, the city could get sued. So, please leave to get your ID badge and waivers.
Listen here, kid. Why don't you get an adult and we can figure things out?
Oh, okay. I'm legally an adult and that hurt my feelings. Only the assistant manager was in. And their main job is scheduling, paperwork, ordering stuff, and the like. Not dealing with this. So I called the cops. Hey, it's me from local pool X. There's some scary man here taking pictures of kids. And he does not have any sort of ID badge. Can you please come quickly? The cop showed up within 10 minutes, found the guy and escorted him out because he didn't have his ID. And I just waved at him so good as he left. Next story. Yes sir, no problem. Part of my job is to take the upsets, problems, errors that are above the pay grade of the director, managers, and supervisors below me. If you get to me, it's pretty bad, and I'm good at sending these people away happily. This one guy had been escalating his issue further and further, and decided to threaten legal action because the director had refused a refund on something we had fully produced on an order that was placed 11 months prior. He had 24,000 units in our warehouse and told me verbatim that I was full of crap and lying. He claimed we never would have produced 24,000 units despite his written authorization to do so. He then demanded I ship him the units before the week's end, knowing there was no way we could produce them and ship them that quickly. The thing is, the units have been produced at his request, so I said, "Absolutely, sir. I will even cover the extra freight to have them shipped to you by Wednesday." He again called me a liar and said that if they were not in his position, he was suing my company and me personally. Okay. His units arrived the following day around 6 p.m. He called in irate with my receptionist. Generally, I refuse calls after business hours, even if I'm still in. But I had my receptionist pass me the call. The customer started out being very rude, so I played him the recorded call where he threatened me and my company if I didn't ship. He then asked if he could pay the shipping to send the units back to be used for their original purpose, per his original contract. $800 in shipping later, we are continuing to fulfill his original order per the original contract.